debates and discussions about science, as we will hear later on at this meeting. The controversies issue is part of a series of clinical debates that we have in various fields under the sponsorship of the Academy for Clinical Debates and Controversies in Medicine. We had a very nice meeting last year in Berlin, and now we have our second meeting here in Athens. The topics that we cover here, as you all know, are really in all fields of neurology. There is nothing that could not be discussed, cannot be debated, should not be debated, should not be discussed in full, in depth. So we are going to deal with many of these issues here in Athens, different issues that were dealt with in Berlin, not necessarily. 11:15 was the last count that I have here, but actually we have this year we have 40 debates as opposed to 28 in Berlin. The invited presentations increased tremendously. Free communications had to suffer a little bit, so we have fewer of those, but there is a compensatory increase in the number of posters, and I do suggest that each of you will go to the posters, will view the posters, will discuss, will debate with the presenters who've made this a big effort to present their data. A lot of faculty, and as I said, participation is great. I want to say special thanks to all the faculty, to all the members of the Scientific Advisory Board, but most particularly I want to mention three names of the section heads. So Ariel Miller from Israel, who is the section head for multiple sclerosis, Michael Sperling from the United States, the stroke section head, the epilepsy section head, and Nathan Bornstein from Tel Aviv, who is the stroke section head. And all have contributed to the success of the meeting, all have suggested ideas about debates, have suggested speakers and debaters, and that we have increased the number of sponsors here. And as you will see, Bayer Healthcare and Ingelheim are gold sponsors, and there are many other sponsors. I will not mention each of them, but they're all in your book of abstracts, October 8 to 11 in 2009. And just to make sure that we hit the 1,300 target number of participants, at least, and it will be there. White Drug, it's a historical city filled with rich culture, so it's not just the science I mentioned. The importance of the meeting is in the debates. And we shall be very strict with time, allowing 15 minutes, 17 minutes at the maximum for each debater to talk about, and then the opponent will have an equal amount of time, of course, and then it will go to the floor for questions. The chairpersons are very important in guiding this, and then letting the first presenters to conclude with 2 or 3 minutes each to finalize the meeting, the session in 45 minutes. We're going on to the next session, next debate. Who has not done so yet, to switch over their cellular phones, and I wish, I asked Professor Moroshano, my co-chairman, together with Timothy Kostas from here, to go on.
International meeting that I hope will cover all your expectations, or most of them. So let's start. It's really an honor to have Professor Vithoulkas as the first lecturer in this meeting. Speak about science through all the centuries. Professor.
Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to give the presentation in this talk. I'm a professor of mathematics, therefore it's something strange that I give this presentation. On the other hand, perhaps in order to express some concrete sums, such as the sum of their fingers. Later on, people, starting with simple mathematical entities, like the integers, and using complicated brain processes, were able to construct mathematical structures of great complexity. Therefore, Aristotle was right, claiming that numbers were created from sensible objects via abstraction, and anti-Platonizing scholars are also right, claiming that mathematical structures are the creation of...
For the sake of the science and flavor of debate, we invited here the most prominent voice in classic homeopathy, Professor Georgios Vithoulkas. He had been awarded in 1996 with Alternative Nobel Prize. He is the founder of Academy of Classical Homeopathy, and currently he is affiliated to Eugene University, where he is responsible for some very important master educational programs. So with this introduction, I would kindly invite Professor Vithoulkas to let us know about a very interesting and exciting fact.
Dear Chairman, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you and the organizing committee of the Congress for this kind invitation. It's my great honor and pleasure to be here and to share with you some ideas and thoughts about homeopathy. As we all know, the evolution of medicine the last 20 years is phenomenal. In a similar way, the evolution of homeopathy is also impressive. As everybody understands, I hope, I cannot prove to you anything within 20 minutes, especially that homeopathy is a science, which is decided. But what I can do is to present to you some propositions concerning the homeopathic point of view and let you make your own evaluation. Some of the ideas that I will be presenting may look familiar to you. I would like to have some more light. It's not possible, or I must use my glasses, maybe over 75, 77, well, my glasses. Anyhow, I think I can have more light in this way, or can we put some more light in the hall? No, okay, that's not mine. Some of the ideas that we will be presenting may look familiar to you, some others may be surprising or controversial. And I'm sure also that a lot of important questions will be left unanswered. Please do not jump into conclusions before you have investigated the matter more thoroughly. I want to make a statement from the very beginning, so no misunderstanding could arise. Homeopathy does not claim to cure everything, and more specifically does not claim to cure cases with deep and progressed chronic pathology. But where is most useful is in functional disorders and also in the beginning of chronic diseases. So we have some dilemma in medicines, which everybody knows, who does not know. Signs and symptoms are the expression of the defense mechanism in order to keep the homeostasis, and should be respected and promoted rather than suppressed. Maybe this is a new idea, but this is a basic idea of homeopathy. A typical example, fever should be promoted and allowed to complete its mission in inflammatory processes, not suppressed. Next. The suppression of acute diseases may continue as a subacute inflammatory process, manifesting the genetic predisposition of the organism for chronic degenerative diseases. All chronic diseases, therefore, are characterized by parameters of a subacute inflammatory process. Next. Some chronic diseases are a substitute of the original inflammation and a continuation of the acute disease that was never parted from the organism and never really cured. For example, acute tonsillitis, repeated tonsillitis, many times treated with antibiotics, may end up in an individual as cluster headaches, acute rheumatic fever, as heart disease, etc. Next. Now, the basic law of homeopathy is likes are cured by likes. What that means? It means that the cure of a disease is accomplished by remedies that are capable of producing in healthy individuals similar symptoms of those of the disease. The process, what are the remedies that we are using? All these remedies have been formed by provings. Remedies which have been given to healthy individuals and provided a symptomatology of each remedy, and all these collective symptoms constitute the homeopathic pharmacopoeia called materia medica. In this point, I may say that, for instance, all the side effects of conventional medical drugs would constitute for us indication for a cure, for giving this remedy for the side effects that has been caused. Of course, in a very minute doses. And the minimum dose is another main principle for homeopathy. And this is the most disputed part of homeopathy. Because in homeopathy, we will prescribe remedies in infinitesimal doses. You may have your doubts whether such minute doses can have any effect. But if we turn to allergology, in which we know that an infinitesimal dose of an allergen, it can produce devastating effects upon an organism which is sensitive towards this allergen, then we may also understand that a homeopath who is searching to find what is this particular remedy to which the individual is very sensitive, by giving a minute dose, it can produce an impressive reaction. The symptoms of the disease during the process of a cure, this is another important law in which we have experience. They disappear in the reverse order of their coming. That means treating tonsillitis causes headache, and the person comes with cluster headaches. If you treat successfully the person with cluster headaches, if your treatment is really correct, then the organism will go back to the state where the organism was infected by tonsillitis, and then we will have to treat the tonsillitis. So the main difference, I think, between conventional medicine and homeopathy is the individualization of treatment. We don't have remedies for diseases. We have remedies for patients. The target is curing the patient in its entire pathology, and not only in its local pathology. This is accomplished by stimulating the defense mechanism, the immune system, by the similar remedy. In effect, what we do, we collect all the symptomatology, mental, emotional, and physical of a person, of an organism, and we try to find which is the remedy which has produced a similar pathology when it was proven on healthy individuals. The defense mechanism I mentioned, by the defense mechanism we mean the entire immune system, and for Hahnemann, it was called the vital force, and it's equal to the energy complex of the organism according to the last findings of the science. There are, according to our experience, there are several layers of health. And there are 4 main groups and 12 levels within these groups. And of course, in order to define which is in which level of health a person is, we have several parameters. Give me the next one. So these levels are characterizing by several parameters. One of the main parameters is the condition of the acute infections. Maybe it has not been observed so far, but it is my experience that very healthy individuals seldom are affected by acute diseases. If the level of health starts coming down, we see mostly staphylococcal and streptococcal infections. If the level goes even further down, we see frequent yearly acutes, 3-4 acutes. As we go more down, acutes by more virulent agents, proteus, pseudomonas, viral infections. We go down, pseudomonas, fungal infections, lower down, very frequent acutes, including in-hospital infections. The strange thing is, after that stage, we see a cessation of acute conditions. The organism cannot anymore raise a high fever. And once this has happened, there is a manifestation, it has started, the manifestation of a chronic condition. During that state, we see mild acutes with very low fever. As we go down on level, very seldom mild acutes, and on level 9 we don't see acute anymore. In the last levels of health, we see no acutes with high fever, yet if a fever develops, indicates the end of life. That is the last effort of the organism to survive. And you may have seen in the hospitals, before death, some acutes are developed. If the above concepts are correct, we may assume that we have a new doctrine about diseases, expressed as, this is my expression, a continuum for a unified theory of diseases. Whether the above propositions constitute a scientific system or not has still to be decided. Needless to say that these are experiences of thousands of medical doctors whose belief is that a healing system has to rely on what is understood today as evidence-based medicine. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this interesting talk, and also for keeping to the time.
Chairman, I'm here because I graduated from medical school in 1949 and was a proud person at the University of Cornell in New York City, where George Papanicolaou was training at that time and talking about a cell which he found in the vagina of women, which turned out to be cancer cells. The whole world now knows the Papanicolaou tests. We learned it before the world knew. As medical students, it was just beginning. Also, George Kotzias was there, and he was talking about as we can make. More than that, I took the oath of Hippocrates, the oath of Apollo, as a graduating medical student. No longer do we do that, but the traditions continued to sworn not to kill. Primum non nocere. So we didn't. We didn't carry arms, and the people on the other side shot at us because they didn't know that. So I've seen it from the front, as they say. Also, I saw...
Well, I'm turning to be more militant, and I think I can act now and then. These gentlemen, at the end of World War II, sat not too far from here and deliberated on the course of what would be the world's partition into the future. At that time, the man on your... Do I have a pointer? Well, maybe I don't need to tell you. You know who he is. That's Winston Churchill. He had become senile. It's well known, and so these are things that I know to be a fact but can't enlarge upon at the moment. But the person who was his physician came to live in North Carolina, which is my home, and we had extensive talks about this.
The vascular depression hypothesis is not a new hypothesis. Then the vascular depression hypothesis, as proposed at the time, understood that it is a subsyndrome of late-life depression. There have been a number of studies that support the vascular depression hypothesis, and in summary, is that depression risk factors are common in depression, in late-life depression, that there is high prevalence of what began to be observed in the late 80s through MRI techniques of white matter hyperintensities in late-life depression, and that stroke, as it is common in the practice of oratory and rhetoric in ancient Greece, it is good to state your position, but it is even better to start by stating the position of your opponent. So since I was the perpetrator and proposed that this condition exists, let's see what are the observations against this hypothesis. And the first observation is that the prevalence of vascular risk factors and white matter hyperintensities do increase with advanced age. So
what is the integration between all those aspects of the human being? And it is very well known that in the pre-Socratic era, philosophers posed all those crucial questions and tried to figure out what happens inside the human being and what is the destination of the human being as well. And the main issue was the logos, word, the reason of the human being. And after the creation of the world, follow from the world. And for wisdom, listen not to me, but the word, and know what all is one.
Even when my name changed, I realized the change.
I think that we can protest.
Yes, because you know my work has just started, so you know I told you that I'm doing something like yours with children headache.
I'm your 77. I'm your
Yes, but you know it's not so easy because I'm working in the public. I'm not in a public hospital, and so all the patients are sent me by the divisions, I collaborate with some divisions. And you know, it's the beginning, so they are not sending me too many. It depends. Or maybe they send me, but they are out of the study because they don't have the characteristics that I want anyway. I have your mail. Yes. Yes. Of course, I've shown it to the director of the hospital to see that something is going on somewhere else in the world. So I hope. But anyway, I just began, so I hope I will write.
We have to learn relaxation. Okay, here we are.